Welcome to Unpacking Scorpio Stereotypes. And in Scorpio fashion, we're doing this actually at night. And I was gonna light a candle for the vibes, but there's people downstairs and I don't want to interact with them, which is so Scorpio. How ironic. Now, I've noticed that Scorpio stereotypes tend to be the harshest that I've seen out of all the signs. So there's a lot of stigma against a Scorpio, which is very ironic because Scorpios are all about the taboo and all about what you don't want to talk about and all about what you are uncomfortable with. So it's kind of ironic that that's how often Scorpios are perceived. And honestly, a lot of Scorpios don't really give a shit how they're perceived, but I would like to erase the whole Scorpios are evil and like mysterious in a negative way and they're like out to get you. You know what I mean? So yeah, I hope I can do that today and change your perspective on Scorpio, and I hope my own bias doesn't get in the way because I really love Scorpios. Since so many of my best friends are Scorpios and I'm very familiar with Scorpio energy, and I even have Scorpio in my Mars. Yeah. But anyways, the first stereotype that we're going to be dealing with is that Scorpios are dark and brooding, unapproachable, the silent type you see at the party in the corner, like just staring intensely off into the distance, and you're like kind of scared of them, kind of intimidated, kind of impressed by them, intrigued, but you're like, most people are not going to approach this person because they are a little scary. Now, I know Scorpios, especially Scorpio risings, can come across as very intimidating, and you could assume kind of the worst from them, assume that they're going to be judgmental, assume that they're going to laugh at you, or like that they can, Scorpios can really sense things about people straight away, which can be very intimidating for people to be seen in a way that you're not showcasing that part intentionally, yet they can catch on to it anyway. So a lot of people, especially certain signs, don't really love being around a very intense Scorpio energy because Scorpio is all about the shadow side and observing the shadow side, noticing it, and not being afraid to confront it and acknowledge it. So that could be kind of where this dark and brooding and unapproachable stereotype kind of comes from. Scorpios are great at making people feel uncomfortable without even trying. And uncomfortable not in like a negative way where they're trying to like poke fun of people or forced things out of people. It's just like their presence alone embodies so much of what we don't want to talk about that it makes people uncomfortable in a way that forces growth. And Scorpio is also all about growth and transformation and rebirth. So if you have a Scorpio in your life and you're very close to them, especially, yeah, don't be surprised if you just go through crazy growth in a very short amount of time. If they bring about change into your life, that is a very Scorpio trait. And that's what I really love about Scorpios too, is that they bring so much to the table without even really trying. It's just their presence. Scorpios are very observant. They love to be in the observing spot of a party or something like that, where they're just taking everything in, noticing things that are being unsaid, very good at picking up on secrets between people, on tension between people, unspoken things, but like the energy between people, the emotion between people, Scorpios are very good at sensing that. So often they can be kind of distracted or overtaken by all those energies, say if they're at a party or something, and then you're seeing them kind of stare off into the distance or like intensely observe everyone, and you're like, what is going on in this Scorpio's head? What are they plotting? They're not usually really plotting anything. They're just taking it all in. And yeah, honestly, Scorpios I find can be pretty uncomfortable in social situations because they don't really like a lot of social situations because they like to be surrounded with the most authentic and comfortable with themselves kind of people. And often the case, you're not going to have an entire room full of people like that. And so they're just kind of uncomfortable being there, not really able to allow themselves to be themselves. And so, yeah, they might not be the most talkative people because A, they don't feel comfortable, and B, they don't really like want to talk. They don't really want to contribute because they're not in a place where they feel safe and they feel heard. They'd rather just kind of look around the room and like judge the situation and like see what's going on. Stereotype I'm gonna get into, which is like probably the most known stereotype about Scorpios, is that they are sex obsessed, that they're horny, super flirty, all that. Now, what you need to understand about a Scorpio is sex is more than just an act. It is something meaningful and deep. And I think a lot of people kind of assume that Scorpios will kind of just like fuck anyone, really into like leading people on and like, what's the word, like courting people. But they're not just gonna like have sex with anyone. They're only going to really pursue someone in that way if it feels very meaningful to them and it feels almost like spiritual in a sense. Like sex to Scorpios can be a very spiritual thing, whether they're like religious or spiritual or not. That's just kind of the best way I can describe it. And they understand sensuality and intensity more than any other sign. So yes, that can kind of translate to being very flirtatious and very like sexually dominant and stuff, but they view sex in a very different way than most signs. And so that's maybe where that stereotype kind of comes from. Anyways, I could probably make an entire video about Scorpios and their relationship and perspective to sex and sexuality. But we'll save that for another time. Moving on. Scorpios are manipulative. I see this one a lot, and this is the main stereotype I kind of want to break and shed light upon, because yes, there can be Scorpios that can be very manipulative, but for a lot, that's not the case. So with Scorpio being a water sign, they are very aware of their emotions and they're very aware of your emotions. And they can kind of obsess over them, feel your energy to the point where it's kind of their energy. Again, kind of similar to Cancer in that way. And they almost come to love obsessing over how you're feeling, what you might be thinking, what they're perceiving, what they're noticing, what they're gathering from things. But all at the same time, they don't want to be caught in the act of doing that. And they don't want like their partner or the person that they're obsessing over to know they're obsessing over them, because then that would kind of ruin the magic a little bit, if you will. And there's also kind of an insecurity of like they don't want people to know just how obsessed they are with other people. And so this kind of obsessive energy can kind of melt into a manipulative streak, or it could come across as that way because they're so attuned to the other person's emotions, what's going on in their life, etc., that they could maybe use that information to their advantage, or just to kind of see what happens if they like say something or do a thing, because they kind of know what the other person's response is going to be. And it can be like a little bit of a game sometimes, but very often for a lot of nice Scorpio people, this is not really something that they can control. And they're not trying to manipulate you. They're just they're very interested in you. A Scorpio, that is high praise, because it takes a lot for Scorpio to be intrigued. So another stereotype that kind of goes along with the manipulative stuff and the obsessive stuff is they're very jealous, and they can be very possessive of their partners and stuff like that. So yeah, as I was mentioning, it takes a lot for a Scorpio to have a lot of interest in someone, like for someone to actually pique a Scorpio's intrigue. They like complexity, if you will. But the jealousy kind of also stems from an insecurity of they're scared that they're not going to be able to find anyone else like you, and they will hold you fucking tight. And they also want you to be as obsessed with them as they are with you. Only they want you to be more obsessed with them, like on the outside, because they don't truly want the other person to know just how obsessed they are, you know? So yeah, again, like jealousy in general is just kind of an insecure reaction. But for Scorpios, like the jealousy kind of stems from, and like the possessiveness stems from, you are so precious to me. I don't want the world to take you away from me, other people to take you away from me, because there's no one like you. You know what I mean? Like, you're special in my eyes, and like we fucking connect. And when a Scorpio finds a connection, oh, there, it's intense, and you're there for life, sort of. I feel like this video is like so fucking all over the place compared to my other videos. Whatever, I'm not doing Scorpio justice, but like, it is what it is. Now, another stereotype we're going to get into is that Scorpios are very distrustful, cautious towards people, and can come across as very mysterious and stuff. But yeah, they can take a while for them to trust you. A lot of people who experience Scorpios in their life could have the sense that the Scorpio is kind of assuming the worst of the person and like kind of using that to protect themselves. You know, just that angsty, dark energy. But what's more to that is they want to make sure that they're letting in the right kind of energy into their energy field, because authenticity is actually very important to Scorpios, and being able to be raw and real and very like vulnerable, and like they're not hiding anything, because Scorpio rules the house of taboo essentially, and they want to reveal that, they want to like expose that, and they're comfortable with that. So if they see if someone else is not comfortable about taboo things, about things as the shadow sides of themselves, then they're not so easily and readily going to expose those parts to them, because they know that the other person is not going to be willing to do that in the same capacity. Yeah, like to Scorpios, like sharing their fullest selves is a very sacred act. So they're not just going to do that to anyone. They're going to wait it out, test the waters, make sure that this person or people are worthy of their energy and of themselves, because they also don't want to be like misunderstood or laughed at or like made fun of for exposing them true selves. Not because necessarily that's gonna like hit them down and like affect themselves a lot, but because they know their fucking worth. And yeah, they're not gonna like put themselves in a situation that's like negative when they don't have to. So one last stereotype that I'm gonna get into for Scorpio is that they're really intense. I think a lot of people have had experiences with Scorpios where they get into a relationship or whatever with a Scorpio, it's really, really intense, and then like ends quickly, and it's just like too much, and it was overwhelming, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I think I just had like a 3-year relationship, but it was like narrowed down to 3 months. That's how intense it can be. But yeah, Scorpios aren't necessarily intense about like everything, but they are definitely intense, care a lot about things that really, really matter to them. So similar to Cancers again, where I was mentioning back in my Cancer video that Cancers are very sensitive to their surroundings of what's going on, and they can get like kind of like an overload of information. Same kind of thing with Scorpio is that they see meaning in everything. and they see a lot of depth, a lot of layers, and nothing is really surface level to a Scorpio. And it can be frustrating when there's people in their lives and or like surrounding them that don't feel the same way or don't see the depth of life, of like how they're seeing things. So they can come across as very intense to others because people may not understand that kind of point of view, but they really do notice it all. Maybe you've been noticing that a lot of the traits that I'm talking about and unpacking about Scorpio are actually very correlated and similar to Cancer's stereotypes and like Cancer traits. Go to my Cancer video if you're interested about that. But they really are like the same two sides of the same coin. Is that the expression? Yeah, one is just a lot more softer on the surface, I guess. They're both very protective of their energy, and very sensitive to other people's energies. Yeah, all of these things like distrustful, jealous, manipulative, those are things that you can kind of find in a Cancer person or someone with like dominant Cancer placements, but it comes out in different ways. But yeah, those are all the stereotypes I have for the time being for Scorpio. I could go on and on, but I want to keep this fairly short. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of this. I hope this changed or shifted your perspective a little bit about Scorpios, helped you understand them better. Yeah, and I did have to film this on in the day and the night because some of my footage didn't actually get filmed. So how funny. Ha 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 ha. But yeah, happy full moon in Taurus if I get this out by then. The beaver moon, the super moon. Crazy. Okay, see you next time.